welcome to Looking at the Markets with David Moadel. Today I just wanted to make a basic introductory video about selling options. How does it work and when should you do it? So this is going to be really, it's a review if you already know about this, and that's okay. A review doesn't hurt. And if you're new to this, this is a great starting point. All right, so options, and I have a whole other video. You can look for that, and I'll put a link in the description. I have another video about what options are. What are options, it's called. And you might want to check that out before you listen to this video, before you watch it. All right, so selling options. Well, when you want to sell something, and you want to sell options in particular, you don't want to sell the good stuff, okay? You're kind of like, there's an old TV show called Sanford and Son. And Fred Sanford, played by Red Fox, who was a comedian, he played a junk dealer. He sold junk, and you want to be like Fred Sanford. All right, you want to sell junk. You don't want to sell quality stuff. You want to sell options that are going to deteriorate or diminish in value. The quicker, the better. And so, how does that work? How do you sell junk? How do you become a junk salesman or a junk dealer? Well, okay, imagine, this is kind of how it works, and just go with me here. Imagine if you met a guy on the street or wherever, and he said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll make a bet with you. I have a 10-sided dice. I have a dice that has 10 sides on it. It has the numbers 1 through 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? And I'm going to guess a number from 1 to 10, and then I'm going to roll the dice. And if I pick the right number, then you have to pay me $90. If I'm wrong, I will pay you $10. Okay? So if I pick the wrong number, I'll pay you $10. If I pick the right number, then you have to pay me $90. Is that a fair bet? And let's say you're going to play this game with him over and over and over many times, hundreds of times or thousands of times. Is that a fair bet? Yes, it is, because think about it. Let's say he rolls the dice, and let's say you play this game 10 times. Okay, he rolls the dice 10 times, guesses a number. Okay, if you play 10 times, you play this little dice game 10 times with the guy. You can expect that out of 10 times, he's going to be wrong 9 times out of 10. And so he's going to pay you $10 every time he's wrong. And so if you play the game 10 times with this guy, you're going to get $90. You're going to get $90 from him. But then on the 10th time, he'll probably get it right. And then you'll have to give him those $90 back. Because remember, you pay him $90 if he guesses the number correctly on the dice. So if you play it 10 times, you'll probably come out even. You'll get it right 9 times on average, and you'll get $90, 9 times $10. And then on the 10th time, he'll probably get it right, and you'll pay him back the $90, and you'll break even. So it's a fair bet, and that's how it works. The less likely you are to win, the more money you should win when you're right. And the more likely you are to win, the less money you should win when you're right. And you should have to risk more if you have a much greater likelihood of winning or of being right on your bet. And so that's a fair bet, but is there any reason to make that bet? Not really. There's no statistical edge. There's no statistical or mathematical advantage in that game for you. So why play that game? You'll probably come out even over time if you play that game with the guy, hundreds or thousands of times. You'll come out about even over a large number of times you play that game. But it's just kind of a waste of time and effort. So why do it? Only play a game where you have a statistical edge or advantage. All right. Now, imagine that guy, okay? Imagine if he's bad at math. So imagine if instead he comes up to you with a 10-sided dice and he says, okay, I'll tell you what. We're going to play this game many times, hundreds and hundreds of times, or even thousands of times. and I'll roll the dice and I'll guess a number. And if I get it right, I'll pay you $12. And if I get it wrong, you pay me $90. Okay, remember, it's the same guy, except he's bad at math. All right. So instead of paying you $10, this time the payout for you will be $12 for the same bet. Would you play the game with that guy? I would. I would play that game with him over and over and over. Are you kidding me? I would play that game with him every day. I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go find that guy and say, okay, you ready to play the dice game? Here we go. And I'd play with him, that same game with him over and over and over, hundreds of times every day, 5 days a week or 7 days a week, however much time I have, until he was broke. And eventually he would be broke because I would have a statistical advantage. Again, over time. Now, don't get me wrong. There, flukes happen. That's why you have to play the game many times to average it out correctly. Because it's possible that I would go and find the guy. I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'd go find the guy, and I'd say, okay, let's play the dice game. Here we go. And maybe he would roll the dice, and the very first time he would get it right, and I'd have to give him $90. Maybe the first 2 or even 3 times, just by pure luck, by pure fluke, he would get it right. And now I'm giving him $90 or $180 if it's twice, or $270 if it's 3 times in a row. All right, that wouldn't be fun. And that can happen. That can happen. Even if you have a statistical edge or a mathematical advantage, it's possible that the first few times you can lose the bet. All right. But then over time, if you just keep playing it and playing it and playing it hundreds of times, or 1,000 times or thousands, whatever, eventually the averages will work themselves out and you'll still have that advantage and you'll come out ahead over time. And you have to understand that that's how it works sometimes. Or, well, that's how it works all the time. It's just that flukes happen. And you have to be ready for that when you play any game, even if you have the advantage mathematically. Now, if you're an option seller, you sell puts and calls to people. When volatility is low, and you can look up on your broker's platform, hopefully if it's a good platform, if they have a good trading platform, you can look up the implied volatility, or IV, of any stock or ETF or whatever it is you're selling options on, whatever the underlying equity or underlying asset is. You should look up the IV rank, the implied volatility. And look it up over time. See what was the implied volatility? What did those numbers look like in the past? So you have a point of reference. Study up on it. Now look at the implied volatility. If it's low compared to the way it usually is, then it's kind of like you're playing the dice game with the guy who is only going to pay out $10 when you win, when he guesses it wrong. All right. So if the IV rank, if the implied volatility of the underlying asset is low, there's no point selling options because there's no statistical edge or advantage. However, when implied volatility spikes, when it rises sharply, when it goes up a lot, then that's kind of like when you're selling options on that underlying equity, that's kind of like playing the dice game with the guy who's bad at math and who pays out $12 instead of $10 when you win. So you have a statistical advantage. All right. And so if let's say if the delta, okay, let's say that your likelihood of selling an option to somebody, if your likelihood of the option expiring, of the put option or call option, whatever it is, if the likelihood of it expiring out of the money is 90%, or conversely, if the likelihood of the option expiring in the money is 10%, that's kind of like playing the dice game. Yeah, that's because if you know from the delta, and check the delta, okay, you can learn from the delta what the statistical probability of that option is for expiring in the money. All right. check that delta. And if your likelihood of the option expiring worthless or expiring out of the money is 90%, then it's kind of like playing the dice game. You're going to get it right. You're going to win the bet 9 out of 10 times. Now, you only want to sell these options when the IV or implied volatility is high, because then people are going to pay more than they should for the options. This is especially true for put options, because people buy put options for protection, for stock that they've already bought, or ETFs, whatever they already own. And then when volatility spikes, people are scared. They want to buy insurance. They're afraid that the market's going to crash, or they're afraid that the stock that they already own is going to go down and down and down to, just keep dropping, which usually doesn't happen. Usually the market does not crash. Once in a while it does, but usually it goes down and then comes back up pretty soon, or relatively soon, quicker than people think. The market tends to overreact. People panic more than they should, and they pay more than they should for options, for puts and calls, especially puts. Calls too, but this is, I found, even more true for puts, because they're buying that for crash protection. And so now when the volatility is really high, is unusually high, that's kind of like playing the dice game with the guy who's bad at math, who's willing to give you $12 every time you win instead of 10. Okay. So people who buy options at too high of a price because volatility is unusually high, I'm not going to insult those people and say they're bad at math, but they don't have the mathematical edge. They don't have the statistical edge. You do, if you sell options to them at the right time. And what's the right time? When volatility is especially high, which is going to cause, in most cases, options to be overpriced. Those options prices are going to be inflated. All right. So this is just a beginner primer on, what option selling is all about. I wanted to give you an analogy. It's like placing a bet. And if you do it at the right time, then it's like placing a bet against a guy who doesn't have maybe a full understanding of how mathematical probability works, or maybe they do have the intellectual understanding, but they're just emotionally overreacting, and they're willing to pay too much at that moment for a put option or a call option. And so you sell it to them, and maybe the first time you sell an option to somebody, maybe it's a fluke. Maybe even though the delta tells you that the likelihood of that option expiring in the money is only 10%, well, that means that 1 out of 10 times it is probably going to expire in the money, and you may have to take a loss. It may just be a fluke the first time you sell an option, or the first couple times even, maybe the first 3 times, whatever. That there's always risk in the stocks, and in the world of stocks and options, there's always risk. But if you play this game enough times, and you play it correctly enough times, and make sure you have that statistical, mathematical advantage or edge every time, and I'm assuming that you're only working with options representing mega cap stocks, well-known stocks, or ETFs. You're not dealing with small companies that might go bankrupt or out of business. Okay, we're talking about well-established, mega cap, super famous companies and ETFs. All right, and these are highly liquid stocks and ETFs we're talking about here, with plenty of buyers and plenty of sellers for those options. All right. So if you assume all that and you play the game correctly, and be patient, wait until volatility spikes before you try selling these options, and really study the underlying equity, study it, know about it, learn about it, learn about IV rank, and what is the typical IV rank, and is it especially high at this moment? That's when you might consider selling options. And I recommend, don't sell naked or uncovered options unless you really know what you're doing and you can handle a lot of risk. Otherwise, just go with option spreads, where you sell some options, but then you also buy some options in order to hedge or limit your risk, or limit your potential loss there. And these are separate subjects, and I don't want to go into that in this video. I'll go into that in other videos if you want. But anyway, hopefully this was a good, either review or a good starting point for you to consider getting into options. Consider yourself a junk dealer. You're selling options that, have a lot of decay or deterioration to them. They lose their value quickly, and they're not likely to expire in the money, because you're looking at the delta and you're examining that before you sell the options. And you're selling to people who either don't understand how the probabilities work, or maybe they're too emotional to think about that kind of thing at the moment. All right, so my name is David Moadel. I hope this was helpful to you. If this video has been helpful, or if it helped clarify some things to you, or just helped you think about selling options in a different way, please give this a thumbs up on YouTube. Subscribe to my channel so you can get the latest updates on my financial educational content. Leave comments on my videos on YouTube. I read the comments, and I like reading those. All right, and if you want to contact me, my email address is in the description in the video. It's davidmoadel@gmail.com. And you can contact me anytime if you need more help with this, or if you just want to put together a trading plan. Or if you just have questions about stocks, options, whatever, we'll talk about it. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.